News Talk 98.9, The Roar of Memphis. Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Alan.
Welcome to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm a little hoarse here. I'm Joe Thorderson with Horse Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning.
I'm Alan Gilbreth, darkoakmedia.com.
And I'm Maximilian, wishing you all a very happy and very patriotic Free Thinkers Day, otherwise known as Thomas Paine Day.
Free Thinkers Day.
Indeed, Mr. Paine.
You know, I got to be honest, I sometimes misquote Thomas Paine and attribute it to Patrick Henry. I don't know why those guys are reversible in my mind, but...
Well, they were both very bombastic and had some great statements.
They're
And
great
they were
quotes.
a royal pain in the you-know-what.
Well, yeah, if you were a royal, they were a pain.
Yeah. Well, Thomas Paine. Okay, very good. So Thomas Paine Day is today, Max, because...
It's because it was the day that he died.
Okay. Oh, okay. Gotcha. All right. Well, I'm sure Max is going to probably have something to tell us about that. And, of course, we missed our shot at National Donut Day, Alan. That was yesterday. So,
No,
you can carry it over throughout the weekend.
You can celebrate that anytime you want. There you go.
Especially if you're a police officer.
Hey.
Oh.
Okay, there we go. Start stirring it up, Max. Anyway, however you're celebrating, we hope you'll celebrate by giving us a call or a text. It's a perfect day to do it. You can reach us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. It's a good day to do it, too, because a little later in the show, our good buddy, Jay Hill with Big M Roofing and Remodeling, is dropping in. It's always fun when he shows up. The guy's got a lot of energy and enthusiasm, way more than I do.
How did you phrase that? He brings the party?
Yeah, he brings the party, Max. That's what he said. So, and if you want to see what Jay looks like, it's a perfect day to do that, too, because the cameras are on. And if you want to watch the show, just go to the News Talk 98.9 The Roar's Facebook page, the News Talk 98.9 The Roar, and the News Talk 98.9 The Roar's X page. And if you want to see the posts we've made, go to the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page. Well, hey, Max, speaking of patriotism, this is kind of a interesting juxtaposition because we just celebrated the 80th anniversary of D-Day. So for great moments in building history, I got to admit, this was a pretty good idea you had, is more or less celebrating that, you don't just grab your rifle and go to it. There's a lot of construction projects that had to be undertook, and the soldiers took care of that. They had to build bridges and move waterways and all sorts of things, right, Max? And so
a story of deception, perception, a lot of interesting stuff.
Okay, and this is Max's wheelhouse. As much as of a peace-loving, guy as Max is, he's fascinated with war.
No, you keep pitching that. That's...
So this is right in his wheelhouse.
He wants to see portable bridges and tanks.
Yeah.
I already know him. So.
In Tool Tale, I guess we're calling this a Tool Tales for lack of a better name, but I do think it's a good conversation to have all about home alarm systems, Alan, because nobody's home. I mean, we have so many great options. I really don't see any reason to not have a home alarm system, but you don't just grab the box and bring it home, right? I mean, there's way too many options out there. So that's something. In Alan's Week in Review, it sounded like it was a little high-tech and a little primal.
Yep.
Chicken coops.
Yep, back and forth, man.
Although chicken coops are getting high-tech.
I got news for you. You covered both in the same word with chicken coop.
I was just thinking about it because I've seen some of the it's a hot thing. People are getting chickens.
You would have loved the one I was working on this week.
Well, we're going to talk about that. Yeah.
Yep.
We have a must-have item of the week. We've got all sorts of stuff. We're not going to over-tease because, as we say, once Jay gets here, you don't know where the conversation is going to go. So, but Max, I can tell that you're eager to tell us a little bit more about Thomas Paine Day. So,
it begins with talking about the man himself, and he surprisingly has something to do with construction, but I'll get to that in a little bit. Anyways, Thomas Paine was technically a defect from Britain. He was dissatisfied with
You mean a defector? Don't
defector. You know what I mean?
No, he immigrated.
He immigrated at the request the request of Benjamin Franklin. He kind of was inspired by him, and I like the idea of him moving. He was from England, moved to America, and he stuck it to Britain again.
Okay,
But his most famous work was his pamphlet called Common Sense, which you could say was a catalyst that started the Revolutionary War. But there's another lesser-known work of his that I really enjoy called The American Crisis, where it was around the time of the beginnings of the Revolutionary War, and, people were at this a crossroads time where it's like, all right, are these volunteers going to re-up again? or or is it hopeless and everything? And Payne himself was a soldier at the time, and he wrote the American Crisis as a way to kind of give the soldiers a sense of hope. And there's this really cool quote that he had at the beginning of this pamphlet. It said, "These are the times that try men's souls. The summer soldier and sunshine patriot will, in this crisis, shrink from the service of their country. But he that stands by it now deserves the love and thanks of man and woman."
The guy knew how to write. The guy knew how to stir people's hearts.
Like a good football coach.
Yeah. Hey, but I'm curious. You said something about him being involved their construction. I'm kind of curious about that connection.
Well, what's interesting about him is after the war itself, it's a pretty good metaphor. He had an interest in building bridges in America, in England, quite literally building bridges.
Now that's interesting. They welcomed him back in England? I'm surprised by that. So.
Which is pretty odd.
Yeah.
So in 1796 in England, he built something called the Sunderland Bridge, which I think is in an area like near Durham or whatever. And it was the second iron bridge ever built and also the largest one in the world at the time.
Okay. All right, very interesting. So, all right, well, that's very cool. So, it's interesting because these guys had to work for a living back then, Alan. I mean, our founding fathers got their hands dirty a lot of times.
And the big thing was he embraced a new technology in the fact that he had moved to a metal bridge and was exploring the different shapes metal could take and the different loads that they could bear.
Question. Sorry, you stirred my interest, Alan. So, because we always talk about Eiffel, isn't he the one that came up with the I-beam? Did he invent the I-beam?
Well, there were.
I guess I'm wondering what a metal bridge would have looked like with Thomas Paine's era.
You have exactly, because at the time, as we recall with Mr. Eiffel, because he was involved in a wide variety of projects, not just Eiffel's Tower. He was involved in this new technology, this metal, and people
Are we talking steel?
Ironworks, metalworks. Okay. We were getting into foundries.
Okay.
And because it was a liquid, admittedly, magma, but it was a liquid, it could then be shaped however you wanted it and whatever thickness and however you desired the shape. And they were all discovering, Payne, Eiffel, everybody involved at the time was discovering different shapes, had different strengths. And we began getting all different types of bridges, all different shapes, all different sizes. And the Eiffel Tower was one of those crowning glories of a technology.
Right, after all the lessons they learned.
Well, so here's Thomas Payne sitting there going, all right, well, we got to get across this bridge. We got to get this span covered.
Yeah.
And, it could be empty air. It didn't have to be water.
That's true.
But, we need to cover this span. Well, how can we do that most effectively? And what is very odd about many of the classic bridges built 100 years ago, or even some of the iron bridges built from 300 years ago, they're still standing.
I was going to say, Max, do you happen to know if this bridge is still there?
I believe so.
Do you have any pictures? I guess maybe during the break you can look for that, because I'm curious if because without the I-beam idea, I wonder if they used arch. Like I'm picturing some, the Romans were big into arches for their waterways and just for their bridges and things. I wonder if they would have employed some arch technology in their
the classic bridge, which is not, it's truly an arch, but kind of comes up and then angles in and then angles in again, is arch-like and is incredibly strong.
Distributing the weight.
It does.
Very cool.
So, when you think about, all right, so here's Thomas Payne, who was a great thinker, but he was also a very good designer and a great architect.
There you go. What were you going to say, Max?
I found a picture, but it's more like a postcard from back in the day. It looks like a standard bridge. Like the edges of them are made out of stone themselves, but it's the center part that it looks like it's, supported by iron. And there's these little circles at the edges. Like if you're looking at the bottom part that supports a bridge, like the little triangle, there's these little circles in there that kind of remind me of like on-cloud shoes that kind of take the load.
It's interesting about all this. You're making me think. I'm seeing a real connection because you said he was sort of a free thinker, right, Max?
He was a free thinker, yeah.
And I'm back in the day, it was not a written. It was not. It was actually the odds were very much against the Americans actually winning the
Right.
the war for independence and everything else. And this guy just thought of the future. It sounds like all along he's just thinking of what possibilities are rather than what we can't do, which is not a bad attitude to have. So,
well, I'm not even sure who I'm going to horribly misquote here, but I've heard it said everything is impossible until somebody does it.
that bingo, there you go. Yeah, that's pretty much it. And those are the ones that make history. So,
And you know what's odd about Thomas Paine in his time? When he died, only 6 people attended his funeral, and half of those were formerly enslaved people that he actually helped free.
now that's cool too. So very, very interesting. Yeah, I mean, it's not a bad idea, folks, especially if you've got young people in your family to really find out the truth about our founding fathers. A lot of them, I mean, there's a wealth of history, and they were really just cool individual, or very, very interesting thinkers, and we wouldn't have a country without them. So that's pretty cool, Max. Maybe if you can get me that picture, I can post it on our Facebook page of the bridge and everything. So, well, there you go, Alan. You never know where the conversation's gonna take us here over on Tool Talk Radio, and especially once Jay Hill shows up. He's gonna be here shortly. So once again, I would remind you, if you got any questions about roofing, remodeling, or anything to do with the exterior protection of your home, it's gonna be a great day to call in. You can get us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline, 901-683-0989. And I think Alan, when we when we come back, I'm really kind of intrigued by your by these projects you were working on this week. You say it's high tech and low tech all together, right?
All in one place.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right, that's gonna be cool, and I'm gonna be interested to see what Jay brings us as well. So you're listening to Tool Talk Radio. We're gonna take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Alan.
I live by the quarry. We should hang out by the quarry and throw things down there.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
Yeah, if we had people like Creed at the beginning of our country, Alan, we'd all be, I want to think about what would happen. And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Alan Gilbreth from DarkOakMedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. And also, it's a good day to do it because shortly, our good buddy Jay Hill with Big M Roofing and Remodeling is going to be in the house. And, so anything to do with the exterior protection of your home is it's a great day to ask about that. So, like we said, get in touch with us, 901-683-0989. But before we have any of that kind of elevated conversation, let's do it, Max.
Oh, the humanity.
All right. I don't know. This might be elevated. We're going to find out what Alan did this week.
Well, we're gonna start with the tale of a chicken coop.
Right. I scoffed earlier. Then I had to catch myself because chicken coops are everywhere and they're getting high tech, right?
Well, even with the Food Dude episode, we did a little chicken teriyaki last week, and we wound up talking about chicken coops and how everybody, it seems like everybody these days has an urban chicken or one in their neighborhood somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about having, some urban livestock because, let's face it, pygmy goats, teacup pigs, potbelly pigs, pets have changed.
Sure.
People keep alligators and stuff now. Caimans. Can't have an alligator. You can have a caiman.
You don't want to know what's in Alan's backyard.
A whole lot of vegetables right now.
Right.
But so here we go. I get called in, and this is a long property. It's a couple of acres, and the lady wants to keep her chicken coops.
Sure.
But originally, when they were built for one chicken each.
And tight quarters.
Yeah, they were kind of Martha Stewarted up. They're cute, but they weren't terribly functional. And the other thing is getting water down there and food down there and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to get on my high horse a little bit about if you're going to have a critter, start with the human.
Yeah, how are you going to keep it maintained?
Exactly.
How do you clean it? How do you
if you're going to have a cat, remember those things, they eat and they go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
And boy, do cats go to the bathroom. And this is something you seriously need to think about and plan. How do you meet the needs of this critter? But I'm going to throw in from a human side. So the more difficult you make it on you, the less enjoyable the pet and or animal experience is going to be.
Right.
Of some years, now this is a few years back, I wound up with a whole raft of putting in fish ponds. And everybody would look at me like, well, you're doing a lot of work for a goldfish. And I'm like, well, I'm not doing a lot of work for a goldfish. I'm doing a lot of work for you so you can have goldfish.
Yeah.
Because, we don't want to be out here having a raccoon buffet. And then everybody looks at me funny and I go,
I didn't think of that. That's like them walking up and dipping
you're
in.
You might as well just open a Captain D's in the raccoon neighborhood and hung a little bell and started ringing it every time you went and bought $50 worth of fish.
Yeah.
So back to the chicken coop. So it turns out that it's near a fence. So we went and spent more money than she wanted to spend on, of all things, plant hangers.
Now,
And what we did
yeah.
was we neatly hung the hose from the house down the fence line so it's not where the lawnmower can get it, it's not in the way, and then put a little hose reel down at the end by the fence where now all she's got to do is turn on the water at the house when she walks out, walk down to the chicken coop, and now she's got a little sprayer on the end of it and she can pull the hose over and she can water and clean and do what she needs instead of trying to haul 200 feet of hose every single time she goes to the chicken coop.
Alan, that is a perfect, that reminds me of an axiom I try to live by, which is it only takes a little more to go first class. So you just created, by doing that one, by thinking ahead, you just made your life 100 times easier. And you just pick up the hose there and you're at the spot. You're not hauling things
that way.
Back
You just
and forth.
turned on the water at the house. You walk down. You got a little cap on it so you're not wasting water while you're walking. You get down there, you can clean and spray and do. The next one I'm going to talk about is, again, making it human friendly. Because they had this kind of rickety door thing that they kind of pried open and pried shut. And it's, a couple of hinges and a little ingenuity later, and AKA 1 2x4. Now it's got a door.
There you go.
A real door, like on hinges. You turn the door, we even put in a doorknob.
Oh,
We
nice.
even put in a doorknob so the thing will actually latch.
Right.
And now it's also got a hook. Because again, you're raising chickens, and chickens are tasty. And there are a lot of things out there besides us think chickens are tasty.
And hawks are evil. They'll eat anything. They'll go after those chickens if you leave them out.
Hawks will take out your chicken, your cat, your bunny rabbit, anything small enough to get toted off. So,
Owls, too.
Oh,
yeah.
owls are big, especially now in the Mid-South, we do have great horned owls. And they will carry off anything 4 pounds or less.
Oh, yeah, we got an owl in our backyard.
Oh, yeah. So
yep.
especially with all your trees.
Yeah. Yep. So
the big thing is with the chicken coop, we got the water down there, so it's easy.
right.
It is a simple process. And for those of you thinking about urban chickens, roosters are not required.
Okay.
You only need a rooster if you want fertilized eggs and you want to have baby chicks.
And you want to have a million chickens running
And you want to
around
have a
your-
million chickens. The hens will lay eggs just fine without a rooster. You don't need one. And the rooster's who makes all the noise. He crows.
They're the ones that wake the neighbors up.
He's the
every
one
morning.
that gets you in trouble with your neighbors. So you don't have to have one. Now, the flip side to this is this particular chicken coop even goes as far, since we got Jay Hill coming in, even goes as far as having a shingled roof.
I mean, it seems to me a no-brainer. You want a good roof on there.
You want to protect. You want to protect the assets, if you want to think of them that way.
Well, hang on. You know animals better than I do. You understand animal psychology because I see two benefits of a shingled roof. Okay, for one thing, I've seen the chicken coops where they have like just the metal roof, like
Right.
Well, when it's raining, that's probably really loud.
It is.
And chickens are very skittish, and they're probably not digging all that noise. If you have a shingled roof, it's still going to make noise, but it's sort of a muted.
Right.
And maybe it keeps your chickens a little more calm and peaceful. I don't know.
The other thing we did was we actually put some metal extensions, like a gutter. We didn't put actual gutter, but little metal extensions around the bottom of the roof
to divert the water,
to put the water further out away from the actual coop itself, keep it from being a muddy mess.
Yeah,
so
not a bad idea.
Little things that made the experience easier for the homeowner. And, and everybody's going, well, it looks so much better. It's all cleaned up because we got the weeds cut and all the junk and debris removed. And, we actually turned it from, I'm kind of hiding that I have chickens, into, hey, look,
I got a
good-looking coop, and it's easy to take care of. And, we changed how she does her feed and where she puts it, so that she now has a little storage shed down again next to the fence, next to the water. And now her feed is locked up right down there by the critters.
And
so
she's not doing all on the front end. You just do all this to make it user-friendly.
Now, we're retrofitting all of this. And the next little stage we're going to build is we're actually going to build them a yard. But like you said, you can't just build a yard. You can't just open it up, because things will fly in.
Right.
So it's going to have a cover and sides. And because she is slightly out in the country, it's also going to have to be buried.
Yeah.
Because, you do have little buddies like little foxes. And believe it or not, armadillos and stuff that will dig in if they get the opportunity.
Do they go after chickens?
No, but they're going to go after the bugs and stuff attracted to chicken side effects.
So they cause the breach, and then some other animal
somebody
gets
else tunnels in for you, and then somebody just rang the dinner bell. So
talk about a battle. Yeah, I mean,
so welcome to Urban Chickens. It's
Urban
a
Chickens
thing,
is
man.
the new name for my band.
It is.
But it is hot. I mean, a lot of people are doing it.
I'm enjoying
in nice
the work.
neighborhoods. Yeah.
Well, and it's kind of fun because the chickens are really tame. They're sitting there talking to you, walking around you. They're kind of cute. I got a couple of wild roosters at another job site that I've been taming.
Yeah.
So they actually know my truck now. So when I drive down the street, you see them come running out of the woods.
Oh, why do you give them food or something?
Yeah, because they know I'm going to feed them.
Oh, so Alan, that's Alan's life motto: bribe people and creatures with food. So, all right, I don't know if it's going to work with our next guest, but we'll find out in a minute. After the break, we're going to visit with our good buddy Jay Hill from Big M Roofing and Remodeling.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Alan.
Good news, everyone! I'm in terrible pain.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
All right, I see, Alan. It's going to be another one of these days with Max's freaky rejoiners, but whatever. And we'll come back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Alan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com, the disturbed Max over there behind the glass, and in the house, our good buddy Jay Hill with Big M Roofing and Remodeling.
Yay.
So, I don't know if you hit the music yet. Let's not do it yet. It's a perfect day to call us. Call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling hotline at 901-683-0989. All right, now you can hit it, Max. Did he hit it? There we go. Jay's got his own walk-up music. Like any great baseball player, if you go, to the game.
Walk-up music, I'd like to pick that out.
Oh.
It's not this. It's just like until you bring your own walk-up music.
Well,
right?
we don't want to get sued either, Jay. We got to,
Every
we
great
can't,
hero needs his own theme song.
We don't want Led
Absolutely.
Zeppelin suing us or anything, but, Hey, Jay, good to see you, man.
Yeah, good to be here, guys.
What's going on out in the world?
Man, there's
in
all
your
kind of
world?
stuff going on, I tell you. Of course, we hadn't had a lot of bad weather right here in the local market
Yet.
That's right. That's what I was going to say. But, the perimeters, around, there's a few spotty places. There's been some stuff. So roofing in of itself is a little slower than normal for this time of year. But as Alan just indicated, we know that's just around the corner from changing, unfortunately, for a lot of folks. But the other trades are steady, real steady.
Yeah.
Doing a lot of gutters, windows, doors, fences, things like that, a lot of painting. And those are the things that, a lot of people that are in my business just do roofs. And we started out that way. And I know I've mentioned this before, probably, but I think it's been a couple of years ago. I started out that way as well, just wanted to do the roofs. But so many times in an insurance claim, or sometimes just out of desire, if it's a cash sale from the customer, there are just other things they want to get done. So we learned those trades and made sure that we could do a lot of things, and we can absolutely take care of anything with an insurance claim now. But what we concentrate on, as you just mentioned, Joe, was the exterior of your home.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, you just mentioned a key word of that. It's starting to be a big topic, especially in a lot of the different subdivisions, is a fence. That is huge. And I have seen a lot of floppy, hanging, S-curving fences after the last couple of years, and especially after all this rain.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Alan, and I think something that should be said right here for our listeners is that, putting up a fence is really just part of the deal. It's like anything that you have, whether it be an automobile or a fence. I mean, you've got to take care and maintain that moving forward. Your fence is not going to last near what it could if you don't, pressure wash it every few years and put a little sealer on it. So I highly recommend that you do that. I mean, it's only going to look pretty for a few years, tops, unless you put some kind of sealers on it and pressure wash it from time to time and do so.
Well, with fence, my big thing is you get the posts set deeply because, like you said, Alan, it's a wind sail, but also don't put the fence boards right on the ground. Give yourself a little gap so they can breathe and they can dry out. So
there's a lot of water control, moisture control, and I'm saying this after the last 2 weeks, because here in the Mid-South we've had a considerable amount of rain. If it wasn't in just one big deluge, we've had 3 or 4 different pop-up storms that just I love the meteorological predictions in Memphis. Basically it's the same report. It's hot, it's humid. There's a chance of afternoon thunderstorms.
Yeah,
every single
2
day.
months. Yeah.
And those little storms add up, and they weaken the supports on these fences that weren't put in all that great.
Yeah,
as I'm going to say, contractor grade.
Yeah. Too, if you look at or kind of just reminisce about, the last couple of months and weather and how we've escaped a lot of that. I mean, we've just escaped it. We've had some bad weather just south of us.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, there was one storm. We were just sitting up, going, "Do we got to get in that center closet in the?" And it sort of dodged us. Sometimes a lot of weather dodges Memphis. I don't know.
As I live down there by that bottom edge,
You get hit.
let me tell you, where you guys were wondering, we were watching, and it was
Right.
It gets pretty serious, and there are a number of fences all around the area that I'm like, okay, you need to. All right, there's a slat out. That means you got bigger problems. That means it's starting to wear down. It's starting to, and the number of fences that I have seen, Jay, that honestly I can tell it was a new work crew, and the instructions were, if you have a doubt, put a nail in it.
Yeah.
Because there are like 8 nails, do across each board, and of course now they're all wobbled loose because the inside 2x4 is aged. Mm-hmm. And so this is just kind of keeping a fence in good shape is kind of a pet peeve with me.
Yeah, it sounds like it, Alan. You're really taking this personal, man.
It's the aesthetic of your entire neighborhood. Because as you're driving down the street, you're driving around the corner, and somebody's got a fence that's all catawampus and looking weird, and then the dog gets out, or it's an aesthetic, and it's also a safety issue. You really need your fence in good shape.
Okay. But Jay, the thing is, you said something. It's funny because when I talk to Jay, I don't really think about the weather. The only thing I think about the weather is if a game's going to get rained out or something. But we get that when we get that big storm rolling through, suddenly you're not sleeping because you're getting your phone blowing up 24 hours a day and you're swamped, right? I mean, that changes your life whenever a big storm happens. So
I think anything, good, bad, indifferent, whatever is always, it's viewed through the lens of the person looking at the situation. So, yeah, I hear what you're saying. You're a sports fan. Oh, you really, as long as it doesn't blow down my house and the game doesn't get canceled.
Right.
Whereas, somebody else could look at it entirely different, from a safety standpoint or from a fear standpoint. And that's the way that goes. I will, to close the door, so to speak, on the fences, I will tell you that quite often when I have an insurance claim, and remember, that's kind of what I do. Let's say you might have called in because you had some storm damage to your roof because you saw the shingles laying in the yard. When I go out to your home, I'm going to look at your roof. That's what started the claim. But within that claim, there could be a bunch of other things that we can get taken care of for you that you may not even realize is wind damage. I mean, you can have a fence, for instance, that's all of a sudden leaning about 10, 15 degrees. That's storm damage most of the time if it was installed properly. And I can't tell you how many fences that insurance companies have bought because we pointed that out. You might be missing a siding board. You might have lost a downspout on your gutter system. You might have had a window that got hit by, a tree and just cracked it a little bit. All those things, go into an insurance claim. So it's not just one thing. And that's certainly when you want to do it. I mean, if we're calling in the claim, we're going to try to get your roof replaced anyway. Let's get everything else that it affected too.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're new to Tool Talk Radio and you're wondering why Jay is leaning so heavily into insurance claims, that's sort of your specialty, Jay. You were a former insurance agent, and that's why when you have damage to the outside of your home, it is not just a matter of picking up the phone and calling your homeowner's insurance. In fact, that's probably not. Jay's the first person you should call because you need an advocate first.
Thank you, Joe. Yeah, I appreciate that. I'll get a call a week from a customer who said that we worked with such and such a company, and they said we didn't have anything to work with. Mm-hmm. One that just happened about 6 weeks ago, he's a lieutenant colonel, by the way, down in South Haven.
Okay.
Had two people come out, both take shingles out. And what they're trying to do when they take that shingle out is they're trying to determine whether or not that's a discontinued shingle, which an insurance company, most of them, will have to replace that whole roof, no matter how much damage there is, because you can't get the shingle to replace it. You are entitled to an aesthetic, clean look. But these folks had two different people do that, and neither one of them came back.
Oh, so they took their shingle.
Shingle. So, yeah. Wow. Didn't even put anything in its place. One of them created a new leak in the garage. Went out there. I said, listen, you can't be judge and jury, okay? It's a 16-year-old roof. There is damage. Let's ride. We call it in, get them out there. $38,000 later, I've got a very happy customer, and that's what makes our business roll right there.
There you go. Hey, Jay, how do people get in touch with Big M Roofing and Remodeling?
901-484-5645 is the best way, or you can go to the website, bigmroofingandremodeling.com, which a lot of people do.
Yeah. Call Jay at inopportune moments. That's what I like to see. Challenge him. You say you're always available, right, Jay?
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah.
Really?
3 in the morning?
Yeah. Call me. You better have something for me to do.
But well, Jay, I mean, it is a big deal. Alan and I, that's why we have new roofs, and it's like I said, every time it's something I don't even think about anymore. You replaced ours, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago. And I used to dread storms. Now I don't even think about them.
That's the ultimate thing we're trying to accomplish right there. That peace of mind.
Yeah, and it's fun. It was a fun project. It was a little noisy for one day while you guys were putting the roof on, but man, when it was over and we had our neighbors driving by and really complimenting it. It looks cool too.
Yeah, but
it makes your house look better.
But your hindsight didn't hurt from sitting on it because you still had all your money you had because your insurance paid for your roof.
There we go. We got more to discuss. We have a very rich conversation coming up with Jay Hill. We're going to take this is Tool Talk Radio. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Alan.
You have no skills and you're a loser!
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
Well, you don't have to rub it in. Gosh, Squidward's evil. And welcome back to, right, Jay? And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Alan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com. Our pal Max over there behind the glass. And in the house, our good buddy Jay Hill with Big M Roofing and Remodeling. So you can't do better than to call us or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling hotline. You can reach us at 901-683-0989. And if you're eager to see what Jay looks like, well, he's on camera, Jay. That red light means you're on, buddy. So you can check it out at the News Talk 98.9 The Roar's Facebook page and the News Talk 98.9 The Roar's X page. Well, you know, here on Tool Talk, the conversation is always wide-ranging and unexpected, and we deal with very high-concept stuff. We deal with, very fundamental and basic stuff, and we also deal with gritty and street-level subjects as well, Jay, as much as we don't want to. But there are some, what are we talking, buyer beware or consumer? This is sort of a consumer PSA that I think it's a very important conversation to have, man. So
yeah, and I'll tell you how it all started for me. Obviously, I think most people that are listening to us are aware of just how bad crime in general is. It's just bad. They busted the window out of my truck Thursday night, just right behind us over here at the United Methodist Church at Estate Park. Got me and somebody else, and man, that's just a bad deal. But it that kind of goes along with what I'm fixing to share with you. I've got a good friend, a lot of friends that are in the trades, of course, and he had told me about, I don't know, 3 months ago that he made a proposal to somebody that he knew he was right on the money with, only to find out the guy told him that he was off $10,000. And he's still shaking his head about it. And I started thinking about that, and I'm thinking, I did this math here. I kind of think I know what's going on there. And then I got an opportunity to experience the very same thing just last week, where I looked at a home for someone and gave them a number, and then they told me really I could stop halfway through the proposal because mine was more than twice of what this person that they had a bid from was. And I'm like, man, there's no way. I mean, and I'll talk about real numbers. So, my proposal was a little over $13,000, which was definitely in line for the type of roof I was trying to share with this guy. And he said he had one for $6,500. So, man, you don't want to argue with anybody. You just, you want to kind of get to it. And I'm like, really, you can't do that legitimately. Something's not right there. The materials are $6,500 to $7,500, depending on how you buy them. And just so you know, the way this thing ends is I did go home when I got home at 6 o'clock that night and did a mock order, and it was $6,950. Okay, that's the materials for this one that I've been told can be due for $6,500. But as I'm walking out the door, he said. I said, who said they could do that for that? And he said, well, the same person that did my next door neighbors. I said, this house right here? He said, yeah. So I went over, I'm with him, I'm looking at it, and just as soon as I get in front of it, I said, oh my gosh. I said, these shingles are racked left and right. This is a total improper install. What are you talking about? He said. I said, well, what I'm telling you is you've these people have cut shingles in the middle of the plane. Shingles go from left to right all the way, and there's a cut at the end. This damn thing is going to definitely leak at some point in time.
So improper installation and the wrong price. Yeah.
Well, so that's where it came from. But there's more to the story. If I can just finish this part, I want to hear what you have to say. So there was nothing I could do to convince otherwise, and I thought that would not be a good discussion to have anyway. But I knew what it was. And then here's how that's happening. There are a lot of subcontractors in our market, okay?
Right.
And what's going on is that at every roof that gets laid, there's always leftover materials. they're taking all those materials, they're stacking them up. So they're coming to the table with stolen materials.
From the guy that actually
From all kinds of guys.
Yeah. Okay.
From all kinds of guys. So that's what's happening. And we have proven that to be a fact. So that's what's happening. Now, all the problems with that are inherent. One, you're going to have a bad roof. These are people that aren't in the roofing business. They're in the stealing business, okay? And you're going to have a bad install, most likely. Certainly the one I saw was. The other thing is and I'm not sure, Alan might could speak to it more than me, just what the ramifications are of using stolen materials on your property.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering from a lawyer, if there's a lawyer out there, if they could tell us, because if you accept a bid, we've seen this, you get a bid, and it's always a good idea to get a few bids, and usually they're within, I don't know, what would you say, 10 or 20% of each other. They're always more or less like that. When you get something that's 50% less, you have to have a red flag. Go, wait a minute, that doesn't even cover the cost of materials. So no, I had the same thing happen to me with a fence, Jay, last year. But yeah. No, I mean, and I think it is a widespread thing. What occurred to me though with what you were saying is, how do you get so many shingles that would match? It seems like you'd be getting a
they're all
mixed
the same.
bag.
Yeah, you're going to get a bunch of different manufacturers, but there's really only 3 predominant shingles in this market. And they're GAF, Owens Corning. Yeah, but there ain't but 4 or 5 really colors that you're using.
Okay.
There's not a ton. I mean, it's weatherwood, charcoal, pewter gray, and that's in everybody's line.
But if you have a roof that's not put on correctly, everything in your home is underneath that roof, and do you really want to risk that? And I also do wonder legally what your liability is if you're a homeowner and you have stolen merchandise on your property. I mean,
well, you're going to get into a variety of interesting situations here. And the simple fact, I'm looking at the hat in front of me here that says GAF Master, which means there is a roofing system. Now, I went through an amazing amount of pain in my line of work with the medical community when they came up with the quote-unquote systems for Firehawk.
Oh, yeah.
And what a system was, and just so everybody knows what we're talking about, when somebody says, we're going to use the insert brand or description here system, that is generally a line of products that meet a certain standard and a line of procedures in how and when and where you're supposed to do this.
Bingo, Alan.
That's probably the biggest thing right there, the procedure.
So a friend of mine this week threw in, and Joe, you're going to love because I get to make a cooking reference.
Of course.
Goes, oh my gosh, I can't bake this. It's too difficult. And I said, well, why? Why is it so difficult? Well, you got to do this, and then you got to do that, and then you got to do that. Yes, you do if that's called a system.
Oh, a baking system. Yeah.
That's the easiest analogy I can give you because your grandmother always had a system in the kitchen. And when you got in there, you obeyed the system or grandma put you out. I'm looking at Jay, and having watched him put a roof on, there is definitely a system. There is a procedure for how they took the roof off. There was procedures for how they got the material up off the ground. It was like watching, it was like going to it was off, I'll pick on Ned Canty at the opera. Every act happened at a certain time, at a certain way that was very efficient, very quick, but it was also very precise. So that when they began going back up to the deck of the roof was inspected, were there parts that needed to be replaced, was there damage, and then the system kicked in. Now, when you're trying to, and I'll pick on my father for a minute, about 40 years ago was the first time I heard him use the expression, don't lick it and stick it.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
And it was of all things, putting a roof on a chicken house at the time, since chickens are a theme today. And it was like, no, you put the decking down, and then we put the felt paper down, and then we did the sealant, and then we did the roofing. So that was a system. And if you've got somebody, obviously, blatantly, so out of line with standard pricing, they can't possibly be using a system.
Yeah.
Good point.
I do feel like you're liable, though. I mean, as a homeowner, because if there's something that out of whack and you just go ahead and do it anyway, I feel like you're really rolling the dice, man.
Yeah, I was upset to find out that ultimately this person said, "Man, I'm only going to be here for just a little bit of time."
Oh, well,
And they'd be selling the house, Then I'm like, man, I know we're not supposed to be doing business.
okay. Well, I've got more thoughts about that. I had almost the exact same situation, Jay, so maybe I'll share that when we come back.
Yeah.
Here we go. Like I said, gritty and street level today here on Tool Talk Radio. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
News Talk 98.9, The Roar of Memphis. Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Alan.
And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Alan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. And it's a great day to do it because in the house is our good buddy Jay Hill with Big M Roofing and Remodeling. So if you got any questions about the exterior protection of your home, from roofing to siding to gutters to windows, or hey, maybe you've got a Big M roof, and take a picture and send it in, because we've all got Big M roofs, and boy, I'll tell you, they look good. I get compliments by the neighbors, and I've got peace of mind because I have a roofing system on my house, Jay. So that's how we met, actually, because of our need. We had roofing needs, met Jay. We said, this is pretty cool, and you'd be a great partner for the show. So
it all worked out, didn't it?
It's worked out. So
Jay, what'd you do with the toilets that were on his roof?
Yeah. That's its own story.
That's a different story entirely.
Yeah. I've heard that story before.
Oh, yeah. And the moose heads and everything.
Joe still finds unique artifacts in the backyard.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, hey, Jay, before the break, we were talking about kind of a serious and unfortunate topic, but it's an important one, and we can't just gloss over it. And it's the fact that today there is, and this isn't just here in Memphis, this is basically, a national thing. Sometimes you have contractors that maybe aren't as scrupulous as they could be. Let's just say, let's be kind about it. But really, the problem we're talking about is it could either be stolen materials, it could be unqualified, somebody that doesn't know how to do something. I had this exact same thing happen to me, Jay. I had my prices are pretty competitive because I have a very low overhead. That's something that's been important to my business. I focus on craftsmanship and not spending money on the bells and whistles so that I can have, competitive pricing. But I ran into the exact same thing last year with a fence. The guy said, it's for this much, and I did the math in my head. I'm like, okay, that's barely the lumber cost. So are these guys doing this for free? And I didn't argue about it. I'm just like, okay, well, good luck to you and everything. And I don't really want to. I'm not going to cut my price in half. I'm not going to do it for free. But there's a disconnect there. But the bigger question to me was, and I would love a lawyer's opinion on this, is if you have something that is that, if you get a quote and you go ahead with the job where, to me, that's a big red flag when the price is that low, and it comes to pass that maybe you have materials that have been stolen, or, what is your liability? What if, and what about when you go to sell the house? To me, the bigger question is, what if you go to sell the house? You talked about that roof that was installed improperly. What happens when the inspector notices that? Do you have to replace the roof? There's always the day always comes due when you cut corners like that, or when you do something,
Every bit of that's going to be on the homeowner, by the way.
Exactly, because the guy that did it is long gone, and
we'll not find him.
It's really not worth. There's no peace of mind when you do that.
XYZ who came out and gave you this impossible price or impossible time frame, well, they're going to be gone. Mm-hmm. They're not going to be around. And this is like a real case of a friend of mine that had a yard job done, and it was people that were working in the neighborhood came over and said, hey, we're doing this one. We can do this for you real quick. And 6 weeks later, nobody answered that phone anymore.
Yeah.
So wherever it is, they were gone. And the flip side of that is, and Jay, you and I both work with a lot of inspectors. And I probably work with a lot more inspectors
than anybody,
than Joe does.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, when we go out to inspect a job, we can tell the difference between somebody that was following the rules and following the systems, or at least was really good at their job.
Yeah.
Yes.
Versus it got slapped up there in 35 minutes and then they boogied on down the road.
Well, Jay, here's another thing. If we're just really going to make this as realistic as possible, Jay, you and I talked about this week. That's one of the discussions we had, and it occurred to me. I'm like, okay, because I remember selling the home and buying a house, and boy, that inspector went over every square inch of the house. And you told me something that I thought was very interesting. You said sometimes the inspectors will actually hire a professional roofer to come and inspect the roof because they're not going to get up there and climb. Well, to me, okay, if I'm the
95%.
homeowner and I had Chuck in his truck put a roof up and they did it incorrectly, now I've got a qualified and licensed roofer looking it over. They're going to find every mistake. And boy, I would be completely liable, right? And you've been hired to do that.
Yeah, I'll do one or so of those a month. Yeah, I'll be hired because every I've yet to meet a home inspector who will do the roof as well. They
don't want to get up on the
they
ladder.
They always defer that. Well, it's dangerous.
Yeah, exactly. But
they don't know.
So if you're the homeowner and you're like, oh, I'm going to get a roof for $6,500. Well, the day will come when that $6,500 roof is going to be inspected, and you may be in for a world of hurt. So I'm sorry. I like peace of mind. I like being able to sleep at night. That's why, as a contractor, I charge fair prices and do good work. And as a homeowner, you get a qualified person in your home, and there you go. So
I mean, there's no secret that as life goes on, you move in and out of houses and stuff. And when I sell my house, I absolutely promise you, my GAF warranty is going to be on the top of the sales pitch pile.
Yeah.
Because
check out my roof.
I'm going to be, let's start right here.
Yeah.
Baby.
Yeah.
I got the best thing I could get, and it's right here.
Right.
And you get to have it.
And that's right. And that's transferable. I know a lot of the regular listeners already know that. But when you buy, a roof of Big M Roofing, being a Master Elite installer, you're going to get a lifetime non-prorated transferable warranty on your roof. As opposed to something for half the money, you won't even be able to find the person that put it on.
Right.
I mean, you just won't. Couple of quick things just that came to mind. These are some things just for listeners to be aware of. These are kind of common roofing scams. Storm chasers. Always be aware of those. Look for somebody local. Well, storm chaser is somebody that blows into town, is not licensed and insured here, but heard that there was a bunch of storm damage here and knows he can get in here and sign some folks up and make some dollars. That happens when the weather gets real bad, and that's when a lot of scams happen, okay?
They get a deposit, then they just disappear.
I'm not saying they don't even install the roof. I'm just saying you don't know if they're qualified, you don't know if they have a license, and they cannot be licensed in this state if they're from,
Oh, gotcha.
on the other side of the world.
Gotcha.
Which they do sometimes. So that's an important thing. Extremely low bids, that's always a red flag. Mysterious or exaggerated damage if they're trying to sell you a roof. Asking the homeowner to get the permits. There's a guy that's not licensed.
Wait a minute. So saying, okay, I can do this project, but you're the one that's going to go into code enforcement and because you, as a homeowner, you can do a lot of things yourself, but then you're going to get
there's no limit to what you can do yourself as a homeowner.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, but here's the other one that really, because the ones that really are prevalent right now: extremely low bids, no contract, discounted materials, no insurance or license. Those are the things that you want to be concerned about, because if your contractor is not licensed, bonded, and insured, and something happens, they're coming after the homeowner.
Yeah, if they fall off and get hurt or something. I mean, yeah. Of all the things, I don't know. Painting a house is one thing. You're liability, I suppose, is a lot less. A roof, I mean, you do not play games with that.
It's the highest
It's-
rating
right.
for general liability of all the trades is
Yeah.
roofing. It
Yeah.
is by far the most dangerous.
No, just peace of mind, man. That's what I want. And like you said, so wait, hey Jay, how does somebody, we talk about a transferable warranty, but what does that process actually look like? What if Alan's selling his home and how long does it take to transfer it?
I can literally transfer his warranty into your name in 15 minutes.
There you go.
It's
So
that
it's just
quick.
a matter
You
of
do it
just
right over the phone. Yeah,
just contact
yeah.
GAF?
Either you can do it because you've got your documents when you bought the roofs, for instance, from me. It tells you what to do right there, or I can dial GAF's 1-800 contractor line and do that for you as well.
Okay. Hey, how do people get in touch?
901-484-5645. 901-484-5645. Of course, you can always go to the website. That's Big M as in Mary, M as in Memphis, roofingandremodeling.com.
Jay, if you drive around town, you might see the Big M Roofing and Remodeling signs. I happen to have one in my yard. So.
I appreciate that.
Somebody else told me they were driving by and they saw the sign, and so I don't know. I think that's kind of cool. But Jay, but what Jay is a Memphian. Jay is here in town. He's not going anywhere. He's easy to find, and that's why if there's ever any if you have to follow up or you have any questions, you're right here, man, and that makes a big difference. So
Yeah, and when you're building a roof, Joe, we say this often, but it can never be said enough. Building a roof is not about taking shingles off and putting shingles on. It's about building a roofing system that we'll get into when we get through with the break.
all right, sounds good, man. And we've got more to get to, and I'm really looking forward to our great moments in building history as well. You're listening to Tool Talk Radio. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Alan.
Okay, you know what? Shut up.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
Thank you.
I didn't say that, Jay, but, anyway. And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning. Here with my buddy Alan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com, our pal Max over there behind the glass. And in the house, the man who has no respect for the time clock and talks whenever he wants to is our good buddy Jay Hill with Big M Roofing and Remodeling.
Right.
So, Jay, I think I think you're trolling me. I think you're purposely talking right up till the second we go on air. But you should hear what happens off the air, folks.
I'm getting ready to take your place.
It's a train wreck. It's insane. But if you want to call in and chastise Jay or ask a question about your roof or home improvement, you can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling hotline at 901-683-0989. I know we've got a text on the line, Max. We'll get to that in just a moment. It sounds like it's a very timely text that's on topic for a change. Sometimes this particular texter likes to take us in new directions and disrupt the conversation, but not today. Before we get to that, though, it behooves us to talk about our good buddy, Larry Brown with Brown Refrigeration, the great business culture. We always talk about business cultures. And, folks, you should know, sometimes Alan and I are approached by people that want to get involved in the show. We vet people. If they're not up to snuff, they don't make it on the air here. And but Larry Brown with Brown Refrigeration is really a bedrock in Memphis. In the Mid-South, I should say. Your HVAC system, in addition to your roof, there's fewer things more important than your HVAC system. It is the technology in HVAC is constantly evolving. It's constantly improving. It's making your home more efficient, but it is not a system that you just play around. That is not a DIY project. You can change your air filter. You can open and close your vents, and beyond that, you better leave that thing alone, man. You don't mess with that. You need somebody that is highly trained. And also, the beautiful thing about an HVAC system is if you take care of it, it will take care of you. A lot of times, it's simple maintenance. It is keeping, don't let the grass grow up along the vents outside. Keep your ducts clean. Change your air filters. If you do, it's going to last a long time. But also there are some times where you have problems that are not as noticeable to the average homeowner. That's why it's a good idea to get Brown Refrigeration out and just Do a maintenance check. Have them out in your house once or twice a year. It's schedule it. Just make it. Every Memorial Day weekend, I get Larry Brown out here. They'll look over your system. They'll make sure it's functioning properly. And also, they may be able to identify future problems. If there's going to be an issue where you might have to think about a replacement down the road, then you can plan for it. And if you're planning, that always helps you out. But they also deal with Trane products. They deal with the Remy Halo system. They work with the cutting edge of HVAC technology. And they have just a great business culture. Their technicians are hilarious. They're really fun and they're hardworking. And I don't know what
good people.
I don't know how Larry gets such a great crew, but he does. But if you have any HVAC needs, get in touch with our good buddy Larry Brown. You can call Brown Refrigeration directly at 901-362-1881 or visit their website, which is much shorter than the Big M Roofing and Remodeling website, brownref.com. That's the only thing, Jay. I will say your website, it tells you what you do. But it sure is long, man.
Yeah.
My fingers get tired.
We could have got
typing it in.
bigmroofing.net, or we had to do that to do .com. So, yeah.
Hey, Jay, I like to tease you. But anyway, hey, Max, we have a text on the line that actually is right on topic for a change. So.
And as you said, it's from our good old buddy, Agent 732.
Okay. What did Agent 732 have to say?
And for once, he didn't bring us on a tangent.
Right.
Although it's pretty interesting. I read an article that some insurance companies are using drones for roof inspections, and maybe the cases are getting denied.
So here we go. Can a drone... do you want a drone doing a physical inspection? Well, that's not a physical inspection. That's a visual, but... Jay, sometimes you got to get up there and test the shingles, right?
They're never using drones if you have physical representation. That's the thing to remember. They're using that to tell you no. Okay?
Right.
I would never allow that to happen. I want to see a physical adjuster at this property so I can show him what I already know.
Right.
Or the guy that's been doing it for 90 days, and there's a bunch of them out there. Yeah, well, they're going to send a drone over in a little bit. I'm just watching to see if it's coming.
Okay. That's just, yeah.
That makes me think it's like, all right, it's Robo Insurance Agent. In place of a real human, we're just sending our drone.
Drones are useful for some things. Some things,
yeah,
maybe you just need to visually...
those Christmas displays, maybe, or something. But see, here's the thing about it.
But you can't test a shingle to see if the adhesion has failed.
Exactly, because a crease shingle counts just like a missing shingle, and you can't tell a crease shingle unless you're on the roof and you're pulling up on the tab.
Right.
And here's a good follow-up question. We just got another text in from, as I like to nickname him, Mr. Michael Boomerang.
Oh yeah, the guy that found the boomerang, Michael. Yeah.
Is it easy to see damage on the roof, or that the roof is in bad condition, or just needs to be replaced? Like, how easy is it to spot damage, I guess, is...
Well, if you're up there if you got the inspector up there...
Does he mean from the ground?
Yeah.
I suppose so.
Yeah. Well, from the ground, it's not that easy.
No.
You can see a missing shingle, but again, just like the drone, you couldn't see crease shingles. You couldn't see light hail damage. You're not going to be able to see if there's light hail pecks on some of your soft metals on the roof, some front of you, and from some of your pipes or something like that. So, yeah, you can't inspect the roof from the ground. You can't do it.
Jay, or Michael, I want to share my experience because I went through this, and this is what it looked like. Jay brought his inspector over, and he's up on the roof, and he had chalk. He had 3 or 4 different colors of chalk, and he started circling things, and I'm like, I don't see anything. And then
exactly.
And then he circles over here with another color chalk, and then he has an arrow, and he makes these marks, and he's talking to you from there, and I'm standing there next to you, and it's like, there's a such and such defective over here. There's a whatever. You don't get that from a drone, and also, as casual, we don't understand all the failures and things like that happen on a roof, and that's why you need a physical inspection.
Yeah, so. And you know what, Joe? It's a great point. I mean, and you're in the trades.
Yeah, but that's not my trade. I'm not a roofer.
Exactly. So here's the deal. Nobody's supposed to know all that stuff. I mean, that's like you being, your own surgeon. I mean, you just don't do that. But to the untrained eye, you wouldn't see a whole lot on the roof. But what counts as damage and what literally is damage for you to keep you out of peril moving forward, we can get up there with an inspector and with an adjuster, and we can get all that documented so we know where we're going before the adjuster ever shows up. In other words, I'm not going to let you even call in a claim. I'm going to recommend that you don't, if there's not enough damage to substantiate it based on the parameters of your policy. Now, a lot of people running around town now, they're just, hey, yeah, I can get your roof done. I can get your insurance company to take care of your roof. I hear it all the time. Missing one shingle on a 5-year-old roof. Not going to happen.
Right.
And all of a sudden, you've got all these claims on your insurance. And when it comes time for folks that they like to get rid of, they certainly want to get rid of somebody who's making a lot of claims, frivolous or not. That's the big thing. So I'll never let anybody call in, because I learned that being in the insurance business. Not going to let you call in a claim unless I really, really, really feel like we've got a way to go.
Right. And that's why we say, though, Jay, if Jay's the first person you call, well, for one thing, the consultation's free. You're getting all that expertise for free, which is that's a big deal. When you talk about these drones showing up, to me, that's a person that called their insurance company first. They send over a drone,
about it.
And now they're in an uphill battle, because if they say, well, I don't necessarily want to take that as my final answer, it's still a challenge, because now if you call Jay right out of the gate and you say, well, I'm sorry, you don't really have a claim. Well, the good news is maybe your roof's in better shape than you thought. So maybe you just need a repair or something. But you need to be informed.
How many times do we say that too, Joe? The worst thing that you'll come out of that situation with is a clear understanding of the condition of your roof.
Yeah, and that's what you want. So,
and that costs you nothing.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, that's sort of what we're all about here. But yeah, Jay, this is kind of this is a big topic, and because rules change all the time, and actually technology changes too. I mean, roofing is not what it was 30 years ago. So I mean,
that's true. And the rules have changed, and we've been talking about this a little bit. It needs to be said every opportunity we can. It is not easy to get an insurance company to buy your roof in 2024. Mm-hmm. This used to be pretty dadgum easy for us 5-6 years ago. No mas.
Yeah.
I mean, you really got to know what's going on, what they have to buy based on what damage the customer does have, and you got to be able to know, they've got to be able to know, the adjuster, when they show up, that they're talking to somebody that knows what they're talking about. Right. And that you're not going to allow your customer just to take, anything. That we're going to get everything we're entitled to, and we're going to use the law, everything we have to make sure that happens.
Absolutely. So, Jay, how do people reach out? How do they get in touch, man?
901-484-5645, or our website is Big M as in Memphis, roofingandremodeling.com.
The other thing that's exciting, and Michael, I'm just going to tell you this too. This is the absolute truth with me. We were dreading. My wife and I knew we had roofing problems before we met you, and when you showed up, it was fun. There was optimism. There's excitement, and that's the kind of energy Jay Hill brings to all the projects.
Thank you, Joe.
It's important, man, to have that. So, hey, you're listening to Tool Talk Radio. We're going to shift gears because in our Great Moments in Building History, in honor of the 80th anniversary of D-Day, Max is going to teach us about some of the great building projects that our soldiers in uniform built.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Alan.
I'm always thinking one step ahead, like a carpenter that makes stairs.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
Alan, have you ever built a staircase one step at a time? Andy just does not know how to do. He's probably never picked up a hammer in his life.
Makes me think of like those old cartoons where it's like and they're like floating in midair.
Yeah, this isn't Popeye, Andy. Anyway, welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning. Here with my buddy Alan Gilbert from darkoakmedia.com. Our pal Max over there behind the glass. And in the house, our good buddy Jay Hill with Big M Roofing and Remodeling. And boy, Jay has really stirred things up today because on the Big M Roofing and Remodeling hotline, which is 901-683-0989, we've had a couple listeners that have actually stayed on topic, which we appreciate. So, including Agent 732. And before we move along, what was their follow-up comment, Max?
Well, first off, Michael Boomerang says y'all are awesome.
Oh, thanks,
Well,
Michael.
thank you.
You're awesome. Send us a picture of that boomerang, though.
When you can find it.
Yeah, I want to
Please
see
find it.
He found a boomerang in his wall during a remodeling
That was
project.
awesome.
So, all right. And what else, Max?
And then Agent 732 was talking about how the whole drone thing stems from many HOAs using drones to find people for things like messy backyards and things they couldn't see from the street.
I don't know how I feel about it. I guess
I
if
don't
you-
like it.
If you move in and you sign an agreement that says, I agree to let drones inspect my backyard, it does sound like there's room for abuse, though. I don't really want a drone floating outside my window at any given hour. And you know what I mean? I just don't like that.
I'm going to say it like this, and I'll probably regret it, but I'm sure we can get a lot of mail on this. I am going to predict the end of the age of the HOA.
Really?
Yep.
Really? You think that's why? How would that come to an end?
Oh, the end of the HOA is coming about because there are so many divergent ways of doing something that is now socially acceptable, but not acceptable to your HOA. For instance, of going back to native plants in the front yard or changing, there are a lot of old HOA rules that stem back from the 70s and 80s when we had, basically little sterile grass farms for yards. Well, now the world has changed. We've got water shortages. We've got heat. We've got new critters. We've got, welcome to our ever-changing world. And you've got a lot of people out there, and I would like to throw in a quick rant that going back to a natural front yard does not mean stop cutting it.
Okay.
But,
you know what, Alan? This is next week's conversation. We definitely have to get to it because the end of the HOA is a very provocative statement, and we need to unpack that when we have more time.
I think that's going to be next week. Tune in next week for ranting about your HOA.
In the meantime, Max has been eager to get to this today, so let's hit it, man.
And now, great moments in building history.
Let's shift gears. Let's shift our focus to 80 years ago, the momentous event of D-Day, Max. And I know you're a big student of history. For a young, peaceful guy, you're very intrigued with war and battle and strategy and everything. But we thought it was an opportunity to celebrate not just the fighting spirit, but the hardworking and the construction projects that went into making this possible, right? So,
Yes, and I'd like to begin with a quote again by Thomas Paine from American Crisis, which is very relevant, and also since it's Thomas Paine Day, he said, "Tyranny, like hell, is not easily conquered. Yet we have this consolation with us, that the harder the conflict, the more glorious the triumph."
Well, it couldn't be more true in World War II. The world was at stake, so.
Literally Nazi tyranny again.
So what, but we don't always think about all the logistics and all the building. You were talking about building projects and the soldiers did this,
And so I want to first kind of go through a little bit of the order of operations, quite literally. One of the most important aspects of the operation was the operation of Operation Fortitude. Operation Fortitude was kind of the underpinning towards the success of D-Day, and that's because a lot of World War II was won by deception and espionage, and that's exactly what Operation Fortitude sought to do. And so, to quote Winston Churchill, he said, "In wartime, truth is so precious that she should always be attended by a bodyguard of lies."
He knew how to put a sentence together. Winston Churchill.
It was awesome.
Yeah. That's interesting. So you have to make the enemy think you're hiding the truth behind a body of lies. That's cool. Yeah.
And so one of the first things that they tried to do using double agents and using false radio traffic was they wanted to try to give the Germans the illusion that rather than landing in Normandy Beach, which was a little bit farther away, that we, the Allied soldiers, would take the path of least resistance, which was the from the English Channel, which would be the area of Dover to the port of Calais in France. And that was very heavily fortified. And so they wanted to make sure all the Germans concentrated most of their forces in an area where they weren't actually going to be invaded. And not only that, to make it seem like the Normandy invasion itself was a deception, and how that was only leading up to an even bigger invasion that would never come, but that they thought would come, which was in Calais. And that deception was so effective that German soldiers still held their own in the area of Calais for a good 2 months after the actual Normandy invasion itself.
Wow. Okay, but how did they deceive? Because I think this is interesting.
So this is where we get to a sub-operation of fortitude called Quicksilver, which I really like. And so they created the illusion of the FUSAG, which is the 1st United States Army Group, which was supposedly going to be stationed in southeast England. And it was under the command, air quotes, of the Blood and Guts George S. Patton to create the illusion that, all right, we're coming for you and we're coming for Calais. And so what they did was they created inflatable tanks, inflatable battleships even, and, you know, they like put them along like estuaries and harbors and everything. And if you had to be careful, because if you got caught the wrong gust of wind and everything, one of the battleships would tip over. So you had to have soldiers attending those at all times. Or you had Or you had to have Patton giving fake briefing meetings to like his artificial soldiers, so to say. It was up close, it might not be convincing, but from 20,000 feet where they're like reconnaissance planes, it does look convincing.
I saw a video of this once, and it's pretty cool because the Germans, they're not going to fly low; they have to fly high. And they're suddenly now they see 500 tanks and all these weapons and everything down below, and it's all inflatable fake tanks and things. That's pretty funny.
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, it's cool. Go on YouTube, Jay. It's pretty interesting. But that all had to be built and constructed. So I mean,
well, the thing that was real was the number of bulldozers, bridge layers, and the amount of engineering that they were landing.
You gotta get there.
Well, one of the beaches was completely covered in tank busters,
right,
which basically looks like a giant. Remember the little game Jacks?
Yeah.
Where you bounced the ball and you had the little metal.
Yeah, those were everywhere.
The little metal item of death.
Yeah, but the jacket itself. The jacket itself.
Yeah. Well, the beach looked like it was covered in giant jacks. And what they did was they landed a couple of nice big old bulldozers, and you grabbed enough sand and you just buried it.
There you
just built a road right over the top of it and just kept right on going.
Which brings me to my next discussion of, all right, we've laid out the deception plan. Now let's get to the innovation that took place on the beaches themselves, as Alan alluded to. Not only were there bulldozers, but there was a really interesting group of tanks by the name of Hobart's Funnies, which were, I love all the improvisation and also learning from your own previous failures. So the Hobart's Funnies comes from the name Major General Sir Percy Hobart, who kind of spearheaded this movement. And the thing is, he retired earlier in the war, and they called him back for one more good old round. And so he created there was an old battle in 1942 called the Battle of Dieppe, and they learned from their failures because they realized how important it was to have armored vehicles during an amphibious invasion. Well, Hobart's Funnies sought to combat that by creating amphibious tanks, and not only amphibious tanks, but, tanks that could also help with stuff on the beach itself, such as the Crab, which was a mine-clearing flaily tank that had like little flails on the back of it and everything in order to clear the mines out.
So the soldiers would follow the tank as it gets the mines taken care of, and then you got a safe path?
Exactly.
Okay.
And then not only that, but they also had, to Alan's point, in addition to bulldozers, they also had tanks that had these attachments on them to where you could lay carpet or like other canvas on the ground to make it easier and smoother terrain for people to navigate.
So you're not sinking in.
Exactly.
As you're trying to run across.
And then
that's all that sounds like Alan's kind of thinking too. You're always about logistics and making things user friendly. That's a big deal.
Well, you should have seen the bridge corps, because they would have a fleet of vehicles, and as they came forward, each one did a very specific job in a very, very fast and organized method. And, so basically the cross tracks, bam, cross the stream. Next one came along, anchored it, pulled out of the way. Next one came along, and they would honestly just unroll the bridge down the lines.
Those were called Mulberry Harbors.
Yes.
There you
And
go.
what's kind of cool is I like the fact that with a lot of these constructions, even going back to the Deception campaign, they just reuse what was already there before them. For the Deception campaign, they just used like to help them float, like 40-gallon oil drums and everything.
Yep.
And then for the Mulberry Harbors, it was like, well, we got these outdated ships. Why don't we just sink them and use them for the railings? Those were called corn cobs, by the way.
Wow.
And then concrete structures called phoenixes. And then you add the floating roadway themselves, which they called whales.
Talk about a can-do attitude. I mean, I don't know. It makes me really proud, Alan. I mean, it's very cool, and it's just that's some great thinking too. And it's beyond battle tactics. This is getting your people there. And
Well, this is putting
logistics.
the humans first.
Right.
And any design or any big landscaping job or anything like that, there's a lot of great lessons to learn here in the simple fact that, you got to make it people friendly or we won't use it.
Right. Well, we've got more to say about that. We got a lot to cram into this last segment, but we'll do it. Trust us. You're listening to Tool Talk Radio. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Alan.
Sorry about the mess. I've really let the place go since you killed me. By the way, thanks for that.
Sarcasm self-test complete.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
Jay is staring at us blankly. He doesn't know what he just heard, so trust us.
I was trying to hear it.
Okay. Anyway, I'm not even going to go there. And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning. Here with my buddy Alan Gilbert from darkoakmedia.com. Our pal Max over there behind the glass. And in the house, our good buddy Jay Hill with Big M Roofing and Remodeling. So what better day could you choose to call us or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling hotline at 901-683-0989. We've got quite a bit to get to, Max, so let's be efficient. Before the break, you were sharing with us in our great moments in building history. Really, I'm just marveling at all the ingenuity and all the great, really, building projects that went into winning World War II. In particular, we're focusing on the D-Day invasion and everything, but man, it was really well thought out and engineered. I mean, obviously, a lot of soldiers lost their life and there was a lot of sacrifice, but it wouldn't have come about without these great construction projects, really. So
Exactly. And not only that, too, but there's also the important underpinning projects where it's like, yes, you have harbors and, tanks and everything, but there's the equally important structures of, well, how are we going to literally fuel this project? And so we had to create improvised fuel lines, which they nicknamed Pluto, which stands for Pipeline Under the Ocean.
I love these acronyms. So
imagine these giant spools, rather than thread, just these giant spools floating in the water and everything, and you unfurl these 3-inch wide pipelines and everything that are just like floating under the water, and then sending fuel to all the landing craft and whatever elsewhere. And so I really like that too. But what I like about World War II is not only in the Deception campaign did it bring about like artists and filmmakers and production workers, it also brought about mathematicians and meteorologists. Because the reason we landed on D-Day around June 6th was because of the fact that a mathematician and meteorologist kind of figured that, hey, we have these tide prediction machines and everything, and a man by the name of Arthur Thomas Dodson kind of helped calculate that this would be around the best time to launch the invasion itself.
Really? I didn't even think of that. There's waves, and there's high and low tides, and probably air currents, and
where was it raining?
Cover,
where was it not raining?
All sorts of features.
What was going to interfere with who? Yes.
Right. Yeah, because when you're on the ocean, I can tell you, I mean, if you've never lived at the ocean, folks, you get these fogs that roll in. You get all sorts of squirrely kind of climate things that
can
happen,
work for you or work against you.
Right.
And of course, we would be very remiss if we didn't thank the medium that we're using right now, and that's radio. A lot of the success of the Normandy campaign was due to flooding of radio traffic with fake messages.
Yeah.
And of course, in addition to that and everything with regards to coding and whatever, we would also be very remiss if we didn't also thank the people at Bletchley Park who helped decode the Enigma code, which is, if you've ever seen the movie The Imitation Game with Benedict Cumberbatch.
Oh, yeah.
It talks all about that cracking the Enigma code. And if we never did that, many more lives might have been lost of the 133,000 that stormed the beaches.
Well, there's a lot to say about it, and I would encourage you. It's really, if you go on YouTube, that's my go-to, Alan, and you can find videos, and I'm sure you can find documentaries all about this. But I think that was this was Max's idea, and I gotta give you a hats off, Max. I think this is a good idea to pay attention to that here on the 80th anniversary of D-Day. So well done, sir.
Thank you.
We got a lot to do. Let's shift gear. Let's Max, how about if we get to our must-have item real quick? So, and I bet you Jay's got one of these. So, I'm holding it up to the camera, Alan, and suppose you could tell people what I'm holding up.
The telescoping magnet.
What happens if I get it too close to the camera? What would happen?
Well, it'll probably make you turn green a little bit if you get the magnetic field a little too close.
Yeah, I'm wondering if Ditch is going to be mad at me for bringing in a magnet right by all these electronics.
He's not mad at you for bringing in the Sawzall, just the magnets.
Yeah, well, I heard magnets don't like electronics. Is that right?
Don't attach it to the microphone, a floppy disk, or the computer.
Right,
How about a credit card?
I better put it
down.
down.
Oh, yeah, doesn't like them either.
Folks, I'm sure you can imagine what this is. This particular one telescopes out to about 2 feet, but it's got a nice little it's got a nice powerful magnet on the end. And how often, Jay, have you been working, I don't know, in the car or something, and that wrench or whatever falls out of reach? And this thing's pretty strong. It'll pick it up, man. I mean,
yeah, and it's a cool item. For me, it's like one of those things that you gotta have just because you gotta have it, but you couldn't find it when you needed it because you don't use it enough.
It is one of those. I just keep it in the toolbox, kind of. Yeah, I don't carry it. I don't leave it. Well, I don't want it in my truck anywhere near the dashboard because I feel like it would mess with the the electronics or something.
No,
I don't know.
No, you're good.
But Alan, I bet you've done this. I bet you have you ever just for kicks tried to see what the heaviest item you can pick up with one of these is.
The furthest we ever lifted anything with with a stretchy magnet was about 30 feet. We actually dropped something in a well, tied a string to it, and had to go fishing and get. It was one of the guy's car keys.
Well, that's not heavy though. I'm picturing you guys having the little.
No, this was like a janitor ring of keys. This had like 60
The janitor
keys.
ring.
And
I can
happily,
see it.
he had a car emblem fob on it that was like solid iron.
Yeah.
And that thing grabbed it, and we had to haul that thing up a string 30 feet. So,
Good.
yes, I have seen how much they can lift and how far you can haul them.
Oh, yeah. They're great. I mean, they're very handy, especially if you work on cars or anything. I mean, but you never know. Something could fall behind the counter.
And I will confess, it also makes a fairly decent back scratcher.
Okay.
That's what it looks like as a back
Get back there
scratcher.
sometimes. You gotta,
Okay, a must-have item of the week. So we got that knocked out. Alan, some of this we're going to just have to carry over till next week, including your very provocative idea that homeowners associations are going away. That's what are you gonna die on that hill?
I'm gonna die on that hill next week.
Okay, well there you go.
They can start arming the slings and arrows now.
Okay, so hey, while we got Jay in the house, let's circle back to our good buddy Jay. So just I'm kind of curious. When a storm happens, your life changes, doesn't it? I mean, especially a bad storm. What? It's almost like a triage situation, right? You have to prioritize what you look at, or I mean,
yeah, not only does mine, but the most important is a lot of homeowners in Memphis and the surrounding counties. Mississippi, Arkansas as well. Their lives change, and it's really. What I do is, if that happens to you, it's like being met right there at that point of impact, with the little comfort to let you know that it's okay and that you're in good hands, and that we'll have to walk this thing up the tree and go through the system. But I know exactly how to do it, so don't fear, don't fret, don't get upset. That situation's quite a bit different if you're trying to handle that by yourself, I'll tell you that.
Right.
it's not just as easy as just calling your insurance company and saying, hey, we had a tree fall down and it cut our house in half. I mean, you've got to figure out what you're going to do after that as well. But there are so many things. Loss of food if power goes out. I mean, there's just literally thousands of things, that you should be reimbursed for should that happen. So, yeah, I mean, it's what I like to do. Feel like that's what I'm best at. So if you have any type of weather come through, and you're even wondering, it doesn't cost you anything to look, of course. If anything can be done from an insurance perspective, let me know, and I'll personally come out and take a look at it. So I know we're running out of time. I want to share this one last thing I didn't get in our first segment about this. I want to stress again how important it is that you do business with a licensed, bonded, insured contractor. And if you are not sure, you simply go to Tennessee.gov contractor search, and literally you can put in the box the name of the contractor who says he's who he is, and you're going to find out if you have a legitimate licensed contractor or you have a Chuck in the truck. Might be Dan in a van, but it might be one of those guys.
Okay.
But that's your first clue. You don't want to do business with folks like that, okay? Because if that's the case, they don't have insurance. They don't have workman's comp. They don't have GL. They don't have any of the things. They're not even qualified to be on your property. So if I can be of service, give me a call at 901-484-5645 or go to the website, bigmroofingandremodeling.com.
Yeah, very interesting. And we didn't even mention this, but if you go to our the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page, you can check out the awesome, really beautiful roof that you put up in downtown. It's a roof / deck. I mean,
it's really cool.
Check it out. Tool Talk Radio's Facebook page. But we're out of time. We never get to everything we want, but we'll get to it next week. But in any case, the time's up. So on behalf of my buddy Alan Gilbreth and our pal Max over there behind the glass, and our pal Jay Hill with Big M Roofing and Remodeling, I'm Joe Thorderson. Thanks for listening to Tool Talk Radio, and we'll see you next week.